Hey, Shalom Akim, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rukakadash. Double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of great mystery of the way, and to the accurate and the paraclemus of the earth, preaching the gospel from my Shai, Yahweh Shai, sincerity and truth and diligence of minds in these last days. And we are already approaching the hour of temptation, and it's always good to remember, man, that history, is very, very, very necessary to focus on and understand why certain things took place. So this whole agenda for the Armenian genocide, is also linked with the history of our people, because you have our people, among these Armenians too. Because always remember, the Armenian, nation was also part of the Byzantine Empire. All right, I already know that our people had control over the Byzantine Empire before it was totally taken down by the Ottoman Turks, by the Turco-Edomites. All right, so it's not a big surprise that you will find our people among the Armenians. And when you read further into some other historical documents, you also see the relationships. All right, and even it's just biblical, part of biblical history. All right, all these events in the scriptures also have a linkage of our people having dealings, in that region. Okay, and ever since the the bubonic plague, and that weakened, the so-called Holy Roman Empire. What do you expect? And the economy and all that stuff, had to falter, and that gave way, for the Ottoman Turks to come in there and do business. And if you watch this brief crash course in the Armenian genocide on this channel, it will tell you about the rise of the Turks. And you also have Amalek in there, man. But you know how Amalek is. You always want to figure out a way to come up in the power and make moves. Because you always know, man, when you see the Ottoman Turks coming up, and you also understanding the fall of Grenada and the Ottoman Turks, trying to forcing their way into Greece and all that stuff, and Macedonia and those areas. Then you understand, man, it was all calculated. You could see the hand of these so-called Amalekites, man, the so-called so-called Jews, like you want to call them. It's all planned. They always like to do their dealings in secret, and that's how the Southern Kingdom fell. That's how our people, the Kingdom of Judah, had to fall into the hands of their enemies and be taken captives, and to be taken over to the Western hemispheres as bond servants, field hands and all that stuff.
Armenians are a group of ethnic Christian people who have existed for 3,000 years, living in eastern Anatolia. They once have their own empire and even become the first Christian nation in history. In the 16th century, through the Peace of Amasya in 1555, the Ottoman Empire annexed eastern Anatolia. Since the empire is predominantly Islam, the Armenian community were treated infidels by the Turks, restricting their Christian beliefs, limiting their political involvement, paying higher taxes than Muslim citizens, as well as lacking equal rights. They were susceptible to kidnapping, alternatively exploited them without interference from central or local authorities. At the turn of the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire has steadily declining, mainly by political interventions of the Entente powers through sweeping reforms and numerous rebellions within the empire. During this time, the Armenians have been putting their name to be treated equally by the Turks, but to no avail. In 1894, after a failed Russian attempt to give Armenians to self-govern their land in the Treaty of San Stefano and implement reform in the land, Sultan Abdul Hamid II adverted the reforms by claiming the reports of Armenian false abuses in the empire. Outraged by the decision, Armenians sparked rebellion in the town of Sassoon and spread throughout the empire, including Constantinople. Thus, Abdul Hamid created Kurdish paramilitary units known as the Hamidiye to put an end to the violence. The Ottomans managed to suppress the violence through mass executions of Armenians, which rocked eastern Anatolia, killing up to 100,000 to 300,000 Armenians. With many Ottomans frustrated of Abdul Hamid's government being a puppet by Europe to sign multiple reforms, seizing parts of Ottoman territories to the likes of Britain, France, and Russia, in 19...
So I tell you that the Ottoman Turks are puppets. Be the puppets of of Britain, France, and Russia. Who knows, man? So it just shows you how the bankers were working, man, to push themselves into the corridors of power. And, they were already working behind the scenes with the Turks anyway, because already had Amalek in there too, and playing games. So it's not a big surprise that, they had to take Palestine out of the hands of the Turks. So that was all calculated, all right?
In 1808, a group of Turkish reformers called the Young Turks deposed Abdul Hamid II and reinstated the country as a constitutional monarchy. Many Armenians supported the Young Turks as they believed it would give them equal freedom in this new Turkish government. However, learned that the true ambitions of the group's plan is not only equality and
the so-called Prime Minister of England, he says his great-grandfather came from Turkey, and you'd be surprised, man, how deep the rabbit hole goes, man. It's just one big old mess of what you call of intertwined information, man. And the elites know what they do, and they got the records, and you got people that do the research and put the puzzles together, and then you understand the dealings of this so-called Ottoman Turks and their relationship with the Germans, their relationship with the French, their relationship with the British, and their relationship with the Russians. I already know that. The elites already had control of those nations back then. The Rothschilds already had their hands in those corridors of influence.
Modernization, but also nationalized the country by getting rid of minorities, including Christians, as they saw it was a new threat. When the Ottomans joined World War I in 1914, Armenians volunteered in the Russian army in the Caucasus against the Turks. This was done in exchange of a promise by Russia to grant Armenian independence soon after the war. Nonetheless, attacked against Ottoman forces, defeating them at the Battle of Sarikamish. The Turkish Ministry of War, Enver Pasha, blamed the Armenians for his defeat. As a result, declared jihad, the holy war against the Christians.
So you see him side by side with the, so-called what are those German generals or whatever?
On April 24, 1915, the date that come to know as Red Sunday, Ottoman officials gathered 2,500 Armenian intellectuals in Constantinople, initiating the executions and deportations to concentration camps in the empire, as this coincided with the Allied landing at Gallipoli. A month later, in May 29th, the Turkish government signed the Tashir Law. It enabled the military to deport ethnicities who were enemies of the government and led to increased mass deportations, along with composed of firing squads. Known as the Special Organizations, Armenian men, women, and children were subjugated through confiscations of properties, massacres, drowning, rape, poison by the way of morphine and toxic gas, and forcing Armenians to march out of the Syrian desert, leaving to die without food and water. Many journalists who were there witnessed the events and recorded these atrocities, made their way into newspapers around the world as anti-Turkish sentiment arose, while countries like Britain, France, Russia, and the US condemned the actions of the Turkish government. It is estimated that between 1 million to 1.5 million Armenians, including Assyrians and Greeks, died, while only 100,000 of them survived. The Marshal of 1919 prosecuted the three pashas considered of Enver, Dijmal, and Talib Pasha admitted behind the killings of 1 million Armenians and sentenced to death, but due to a lack of information, testimony in the court, they are sent to Malta for further examinations. In exchange of British POWs held in Ankara, the three pashas later got released. Afterwards, Armenian resistance assassinated members of the freed pashas as part of Operation Nemesis. In 1943, Sir Raphael Lemkin was influenced by the events, coining the extermination of ethnicities as a genocide.
Yeah, so another thing you also have to know is that the whole idea of this genocide stuff, man, you could also get some information when you go to this library that they put up. You know, when you read this, you can always tell that our people are mingled in with the so-called Armenians, you know, and you'll be surprised, man, of what what Esau, these Ottoman Turks, because you had Amalek, among these Ottoman Turks, working under the table to make sure these things happen. And they'll go on to brand the so-called Armenians as Amalekites, as Edomites. And that would justify their extermination. And that's one reason why it's important to look into this topic of the Armenian genocide. So it tells you that the Armenian diaspora is scattered in many countries of the world and still identifies its past history and future aspiration with the wider connotations to the term Armenian. So it says Jewish historical, exegetical, and descriptive sources reveal knowledge of the variations in geographical area and history of this remarkable people. The fate and modes of existence of the Armenians have been compared in some essential features to those of the Jews, and then if you keep reading on, then further down, okay, so it says, that in the past, the Armenian has been connected with the biblical Ashkenaz. The Armenians were termed Ashkenaz nation in their literature. According to this tradition, the genealogy in Genesis chapter 10 verse 3 to the populations west of the Volga, and then it also says that if you keep reading further down, you see right there, so it says the anti-Jewish attitudes prevailing in Eastern Byzantine, Armenian provinces made by the Targum identify it with the daughter of Edom, the that dwelleth in the land of Oz. So they use the scriptures against our people. That's how the Amalek is, man. Or with the Constantina in the land of Armenia. All right. And then it says, hence Job's land of Oz is referred to as Armenia. All right. In some commentaries, for instance, in those Naamanides and Joseph B. David ibn Yahya. So it says, the Uz Armenia of Abraham Pharisos, however, the Anatolian region near Constantinople. Armenia is also sometimes called Amalek in some sources, and the Jews refer to Armenians as Amalekites. All right. This is the Byzantine term for the Armenians. It was adopted by the Jews from the Josephine Chronicle, 10th century. All right. According to the Josephine, Amalek was conquered by Benjamite noblemen under Saul, and the Benjamites were already assumed to be the founders of Armenian Jewry in the time of the Judges. All right, and it says the Benjamites' origins are claimed by sectarian courts. The idea that Khazaria was originally Amalek helps support the assumption that the Khazar Jews were descended from Simeon. Yeah, so, you just gotta check out the meat, and throw away the bones, man. So when you read further, when you do more research, you realize that these elites, man, they had their hands in the whole agenda from the get-go, to have more power. So Amalek still controls Turkey, and they're very, very influential in Russia. All right. So you just gotta, pay attention. It's just one of those things that you have to be aware of, man, because don't be surprised, when Turkey goes against NATO and heads along with Russia, because that's exactly what the elites want. In fact, that's the plan of the Most High, and that's going to put in the hearts, of the elites of this world, to go ahead and formulate the plans for World War III. And you also know that Turkey played a hand in the downfall of Syria, so it's no big surprise. So that's how Amalek operates, man. They always like to hide behind labels and create tensions, and that's about it there, Akim. So don't be surprised, man. That when you start digging and start seeing documents, then you realize that it's one big old plan, man, to for Amalek to be in control of the whole world. So that's the point there, Akim. Just keep on looking, keep on paying attention to world events. Shalom.